Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode number 2 of Daffy's Roundtable. My guest today is an animal lover who's worked in almost all the fields in the industry. If the job involves animals, she's probably done it. Everyone, please help me by welcoming Natasha from Redsfaunaverse. Hello, Natasha. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you this evening?
I'm doing great. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
For sure. Okay, I'm gonna get right into it. Can you let everyone know how did you get into keeping reptiles and like working with animals in general?
Yeah, sure. With reptiles and working with animals in general, I've always been an animal lover, and so is my mother. As a child, I was bullied a lot and didn't have a lot of friends, so I spent a lot of time with animals and learning about them and playing with them and stuff. And as I got older, my mom kind of forced me to volunteer at this animal education place and said, like, you love animals. Why aren't you doing this? And I'm like, I have all my volunteer hours. But she said, just do it. It'll be nice for you. So I went and did it. And they ended up hiring me as kind of like their cage cleaner. So I worked alone in like a basement where they had all kinds of little critters that they would take out for educational programs and parties and all that kind of stuff. And then after a while, the business closed down after I worked for it for 3 years. And then a lot of that business transferred over to the zoo that I have worked for quite some time now. So that's how I got into zookeeping. And it's just kind of, branched out from here to there all over the place. When I was looking for a new job, actually, after I lost my first animal job, but that's when I found the vet job. And then I started working at the vet. And then I would do the zookeeping job seasonally. So I would work in the winter time, a little bit into the spring with the zoo, and then in the summertime I would work with the vet and sometimes with the zoo. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. And then and all this was before you started working at the pet store?
Yeah, that was all before I started working at the reptile store.
Awesome. And are most of your customers like hobbyists and breeders, or is it a lot of families with children and people just looking to get into the hobby?
I would say it's a mix of everybody, but for the most part, I know that we do cater to a lot of people looking for their first pet reptile. So we have a lot of beginner pet reptiles like leopard geckos and crested geckos and bearded dragons, and we have some other stuff as well that comes in that's more high end. But for the most part, we do try to cater towards people just getting into the hobby, and then we supply people who are already hobbyists and well advanced into the reptile hobby. And then there's a few breeders here and there as well that like some discounts.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. And that's probably where more of the rarer reptiles are being sold as well.
Right? Yeah, sometimes we like to bring in, as I said, the more high-end stuff and something that's a little more fancy to bring people's eyes to the store. And yeah.
Definitely. Now you have to. Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. And then, so on that point, what would you recommend for a beginner as like a low maintenance, good to get into the hobby pet?
My favorite personal beginner pet reptile for anybody is the crested gecko.
Yes. Okay. I was hoping you'd say that. Mine too. Mine too. They are the best. 100%.
Yeah. Because one, I think that kids and families like them because they are really docile and interactive. They climb up you, kids, and
for sure.
People, even adults, find that quite fascinating. Their setup isn't too complex, as in the sense that you don't need all these fancy lights and heat elements like leopard geckos or, say, a bearded dragon would. And they don't actually take up too much space, depending on the tank size that you have. They can fit nicely on like a bedside table.
Right. Right. No, 100%. And another thing that I like to point out is they don't require bugs as often as any of the other reptiles. So it's for parents that aren't too big on crickets. That's another.
Yes, that's another big one for sure. And I always tell people, they're always like, I'm not big on the insects, and I'm like, well, you could do the crested gecko. Still good to give them insects, but not as often.
Not as often. Yeah, it's more of a treat than a requirement kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
No, for sure. Awesome. Okay, so the annoying question: what is the most annoying question that you get asked? Maybe at like more consistently, or just that one question that makes you cringe every time you hear it, or
Do you have baby turtles?
do you? Okay, why? I know. I think I know the answer to this, but why does that question annoy you?
It is, for some reason, the one we get asked the most.
Right.
And it's the question that I hate the most, because usually, unfortunately, it comes from people that don't know what kind of turtle species they're looking for. They know nothing about the turtles. They just think cute small turtle. That's all they want. And they don't realize that turtles and tortoises require, extremely specific care requirements, and you can mess it up pretty easily. And a lot of the time when I start telling them this, they're like, wow, I didn't know all that. And for the most part, they're thinking of the red-eared slider turtle when they want a cute small turtle. But as people that are familiar with those guys, they don't stay small, and they're quite
They don't stay small.
in Ontario.
Yeah, for sure. No, they get big, and they get big fast. And I don't think people realize how fast they grow. It only takes a year or two for them to start putting on size, and you need to upgrade them real quick.
It's really funny that you bring it up, because I'm trying to have a video out for this weekend. Fingers crossed that I can actually finish it. It's a Kijiji review ad video, and in it I kind of focus on a section where I do talk about red-eared sliders and the problems that they cause in Ontario, and I kind of just focus on that a little bit. So it's kind of fun that we're talking about it now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. And if anyone's listened to it, this podcast will probably be out after that video. So go check that video out.
Yeah, go check it out.
I watched your last video with the glass frog tank, and the water feature was incredible, by the way. Very good job on that. But you posted the video around a month ago. Is the water feature still holding up?
Yeah, actually, it's actually sitting right in front of me, believe it or not, on the desk, because that's where I'm filming.
Right,
but,
yeah.
I have actually since moved the frog out of that one and into an enclosure behind me, which you can't really see right now, but they're in a 12 by 12 by 18 now.
Awesome. Did they get big?
Sorry, one more time?
Did they get too big for that tank, or?
So I did want to get another one. So for a pair, I would need a bigger size. So I did move her out of there quite quickly, but she kind of used that as a place to sort of settle in for a while her other friends sort of settled in, and the other had her in a little deli for a while quarantining, and then they meet together in their nice new big habitat vivarium. So that was really nice.
Yeah, but has the water feature because it's so small, I was wondering, like, is it tough to do water changes on, or like how do you do the maintenance on such a small area?
Yeah, so for that, I put it in the video a little bit, but I actually just use a turkey baster and just fill the water with a turkey baster, and then it makes the water changes so easy. It's done in 1 minute, and I just fill up the water with the mister behind me when I go around misting everybody. So
so I guess it doesn't take too long because it's not too much water. That makes sense.
Yeah, and some more weed is grown in there, and everything's growing in nice. I think I might use it maybe for a mantis or something in the future. Not too sure.
That would be really cool. There's some really cool. I know a lot of them are bylawed here in Ottawa, but there's some really cool species of mantids that I'd like to keep as well. The orchid one, I think they're called. They're like little pink with looking like they're little flowers in the hands. Those are really cool.
I love those ones. The ghost mantises, and my absolute favorite is the devil flowers mantis. Have you ever heard of that one?
I have not, but I'm going to look it up right now.
Oh my god, you're going to be blown away.
What? Devil's
flower?
Flower mantis.
Yeah. It's incredibly insane looking, but if I was to keep a mantis, I would keep a Chinese mantis, because I would want to be able to post it on social media and have it be legal. Yeah, do you see it?
I did. I'm actually I just want to make sure that I'm looking up the right one.
Oh, cool. Yeah. You see that all the way to the left and the right? Yeah, that's exactly it. A real insect.
That is incredible. That's so cool.
they're insane. Like their wings and like their threat display is like insane.
And the spikes on their hands and the colors and everything. Wow, beautiful. And the other one was Chinese mantis, you said?
Oh yeah, that one's the Chinese mantis. It's very plain looking.
Okay, this is like the more common looking one.
Yeah, this one's invasive to Canada, so it's the only one that you can legally like kind of keep. So if you find one outside, instead of killing it, you could
just bring it into the house.
Yeah, yeah.
That's very cool. I'll post those pictures, by the way, in the show notes for anybody that wants to see them. But yeah, that's very cool. I really wish we could keep the devil flower mantis. That's something. Imagine like a couple of million years ago, this with them being like probably bigger than they are now. That would be something to deal with.
That would be probably insane. I know that I want a tattoo of the devil's flower mantis because I can't keep one, but at least maybe I can get like a nice tattoo of one.
At least that would be a really cool tattoo with all the color patterns and spikes. No, definitely a cool tattoo. All right, now this is the part I was like really excited for because I've been waiting to ask you about your emerald tree skinks for a long time.
Ooh.
Are they easy to sex? Because when like looking at pictures or whatever, it just seems like they're all green or.
Yeah, so it's actually easy and kind of not easy to sex them. So they do kind of all look the same. But there's this specific way of sexing them that's really unique, which is the males have this little yellow scale at the bottom of their foot.
Huh.
And nobody knows why they have that. Like I'd be really interested to find out why. And it seems accurate most of the time. I find that males do tend to be just a little bit bigger and have like a more wider jaw. So like I can kind of be like, is this a male? Pick it up and then see the bottom of the foot and be like, yeah, this is for sure a male.
Interesting. So it's just the males that have that one yellow scale.
Yeah, at the bottom of their rear back feet.
That's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Like a scale would, very interesting. And there's no pores in the scale or anything?
No, I want to know what the purpose of it is. So that's how I know I have two males in there. And also by watching their behavior and stuff, you can tell the males are the ones doing the little head bobs and going after the females and biting the back of their necks and stuff, you know.
Very cool. So you are seeing breeding behavior. Are you planning to breed them or hoping to breed them at least?
I have been very much hoping to breed them, and I keep on seeing big, fat, nice bellies that I think they're gravid, but I can't seem to find eggs inside the enclosure. So my two thoughts are either they're eating them, which I know some keepers have reported.
Okay.
Or they said that they bury them deep around the plant roots, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, I'm never gonna find them.
You're never gonna find them. That's very interesting. Are they live bear? You're sure that they lay eggs, or could they be live bearers?
Yeah, they lay eggs. It'd be really cool if they were live bearers, but these guys that definitely lay some eggs. There's some other keepers and stuff I've spoken to, and about like incubating the eggs and such.
Very cool. I had bronze grass skinks at one point, and I bred them not successfully. The babies hatched, and I found the babies and everything, but they died not too long later. But once I was redoing their tank, they had a very thick substrate layer, and the eggs were right at the bottom, like pretty much sitting on the glass under like 5 inches of substrate. So it could very well be that they hit them very well somewhere deep in there. Maybe if they're similar or something.
Yeah, they don't make it easy. It's interesting that you said that because my long-tailed grass lizards just laid eggs for me.
I saw that picture on Instagram. Congrats.
Thanks. That's my first eggs. So as of right now, I don't have an incubator, but we have one at work. So I'm gonna bring the eggs to work, or I'm gonna make my own incubator. But I'm just gonna put my first batch actually in the incubator at work, and then try to make one for the next one I get.
Right, better safe than sorry. No, 100%. Yeah, that's very interesting. Okay, so about the training then, how did you, like, I've been trying to train some of my lizards, and I've been working on like target training and bringing them towards me, but it seems from the videos and Instagram that they recognize you really well, and they almost want to come out and say hi to you and let you hold them. So how did you reach that stage, and how long did it take to reach that stage?
Yeah, so these guys are extremely fascinating in terms of their social behavior amongst not
Okay.
just like one another, but with people. So I only have two skinks actually that are friendly and will come out and greet me. The
Out of the group of 5.
yeah, out of the group
Okay.
of 5. The rest of them are really skittish, so it seems like it's kind of like up to the lizard, kind of like if they're comfortable or not. So one day they just jumped out at me and just like hung out on my shoulder. I would say some of it is definitely like food motivational. You know,
Right.
they after a while get used to you and know that you're the source of food.
Right.
And they also learn that you're not like a danger or anything like that. I always recommend to people for your animals to get used to you to try to stand in front of the enclosures and such. And I do that a lot. You know, I just sit there and watch my animals. So
For
like
sure.
for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
after a while. So
Definitely.
food is definitely a way to encourage them, but ultimately it seems that it's up to them. And
Personality wise.
yeah, personality wise, and there's been some reports of somebody posted their daughter with like 3 or 4 of them all over her, and they're all friendly and healthy and running around. I'm like, these are like the next best pet lizard. Like these are incredible.
That is very cool. I didn't know that, but now that's even more consideration when we get them. That's very cool.
They
How,
oh sorry.
sorry, no, sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that they almost have a monitor like behavior. Like they're kind of they're smart and they look at you in a way when you like either say something or you even look at them, they'll look back at you. If you put them in front of a mirror, they're pretty curious about what's in front of them. Like they seem to recognize that like that's them. It's not like another emerald tree skink or something like that. Like they don't try to fight each other. It's just like they're just like what's that?
How am I looking today? Yeah.
Very fascinating.
That's very cool. And how long did you have them before you started seeing, or for the first time they came out at you, or
Um,
do you remember?
I want to say it took quite a few months. I want to say like 6 months maybe before
Okay.
I started seeing some interactive behavior. And again, it was only one, and I don't think they started interacting with me until I moved them into the big enclosure that I have behind me now.
Okay.
And I guess when I moved them into there, they really started to settle in and were more comfortable and got used to them. Yeah.
Probably realize there's more like we can be out or hide in here, like or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. It's very interesting. I wonder if you'll see more of them start to come out over time, or once you separate them, if they'll maybe get more used to you.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hoping is that
Yeah.
separate them as well. That maybe do more one-on-one time with each kind of little group that I have. So I'm gonna have kind of my most friendly skinks in one tank, and then I'm gonna have the skittish ones in the other tank and try to work on them more. You know.
Very cool. All right. Are you allowed to disclose the name of the zoo that you worked at?
Yeah. So I work for a zoo called Little Ray's Nature Center. It's in Ottawa, actually. And there's another there was another location out in Hamilton, but I think that's been closed down because of COVID right now, unfortunately. But
Did you work at the Ottawa location?
so very strange what I do. So I'm a traveling zookeeper. So
Cool.
I live here in Toronto. I go to Ottawa, and then we pack up all the animals from Ottawa, and we go traveling across Canada and set up the mobile exhibit and do live presentations and go from town to town. And lots of fun, and it's definitely really interesting to be able to bring this opportunity to like small towns and places that don't have those kinds of zoos and stuff.
That is so cool. I did not know that Little Rays did that. So I live in Ottawa. I've been to Little Rays so many times, but I had no idea that that they did that. And when I obviously knew you were working at Little Rays, I just didn't know if we could say it on the call. But I assumed you worked at the Hamilton location because I assumed that was closer to you. But that's really cool. So what is it mostly in Ontario, or did you guys leave Ontario as well?
Yeah, so for the first little bit, I did Ontario, and then after I started doing like the whole tour, so they sent me out all over the place. I went to the East Coast a bunch. I've been to a lot of the provinces. I've been to Nova Scotia. I've been to PEI. I've been to Newfoundland. And it was an amazing opportunity for me. You know, I never traveled before. And then in the summertime, they wanted me to do a venom tour. So they gave me a bit of venom training experience along with two other zoo workers. And we kind of traveled around the western part of Canada in Saskatchewan and Alberta. And we did another mobile exhibit, but it was all about venom. And we had a green mamba. We had a western diamondback. He was a big boy. And then we also had what was the other one? The water moccasin. That one's pretty hefty.
I think you just made this call like another hour long. No, that's because I have so many questions to ask you now. That is so cool.
No problem.
Okay, wow. If I knew that, I would have made this whole thing about that. That is so cool. So do you have they made you do your permits for handling venomous snakes then?
Yeah, like I don't know how the whole permit stuff works because it's like somebody else that deals with all that sort of stuff. But we are like the presenters and like the animal handlers, so we would do presentations at like fairs and festivals that would be going on throughout cities in the summer. And it was just amazing. We had all kinds of animals as well, like the false water cobra, you know, not entirely venomous, but stuff that was in the exhibit that we could at least talk about, like garter snakes, for example. People don't know that they are very mildly venomous. And it's just interesting things to kind of educate people about. And it was a great opportunity for me to get some venom training experience as well. So
definitely.
2 months of venom training experience, but it takes a very, very long time for somebody to actually be fully venom trained. So that's why I say experience.
Experience, right. And then once you are venom trained, are you legally allowed to own your own venomous reptiles like in the States, or is it just you get to work with them at facilities?
Yeah, I'm not too sure how it works when it comes
Okay.
to owning them. I definitely feel like that's a whole different ballpark to deal with.
Definitely, yeah.
But I guess being able to work at facilities that have them and such, like I think Reptilia had or has some venomous.
I believe they still do have some, yes.
And I think they did also try to venom train their staff as well, or some of them and such, and they tried to do it in like a year. And it was still apparently too short of a time to train people. But I was like, wow, it apparently takes just a really long time to venom train someone.
I mean, it makes sense, right? It's one bite can be fatal with working. It depends on the species you're working with, but some of those can be pretty bad. That is so cool. I am mind blown right now that there's such a thing as traveling zookeeper, and B, that they give you these opportunities, like they put you on the venom tour or and all that. That's wow, very cool. I might need to apply to Little Rays next.
I mean, they're a great place to just even volunteer at or work for. You know, like they always need extra hands if like you even have like families like young children. You can go visit or volunteer. I know right now is like COVID, so I don't know how much is going on there with that, but
I think they're still closed right now. Sorry, but yeah, I think they're still closed right now.
Yeah, they're still closed, I believe.
So you mentioned that you started working with them as a volunteer then?
Yeah, so after the old little company that was just in Scarborough that I worked for closed down, a lot of the animals went to
Little Rays. Okay.
And she also kind of referred some of her workers, but it was only me and one other girl that were kind of really interested in wanting to work for Little Rays. So I unfortunately actually was stuck in school for the longest time.
Okay.
I was in art school. I went to OCAD University and I was in illustration program. And I saw my coworker that I worked with previously do the whole traveling, going from like Alberta to the East Coast, to Newfoundland. I was like, wow, I want to do that. So I just started with a few events volunteering with Little Rays just within Ontario, some events that were near me. And then eventually one of the senior staff members, you know, I was like, you know, I really want to do this. Like, I want to go on a full tour. Like, I was like begging him. And eventually he put me on a team, and I ended up doing like a full tour, and they kept wanting me back again. And I got along with everybody, and it was so pleasant meeting all these like new people that are just so lovely and intelligent and come from so many different backgrounds. It was just an amazing experience, is all I can say.
So, does Little Rays have any breeding programs? Are they allowed to do anything for conservation? Like, are they allowed to breed and release? I know we only have a very limited amount of native reptiles here anyway, but are they allowed to get involved in any of those breeding programs, or is it because I believe a lot of them are rescues, if I'm not mistaken, is that prevent them from getting involved?
Yeah, so Little Rays is a like CASA accredited zoo, so that's the
For sure.
Canadian Aquarium Zoo. So I always get the order mixed up. The Canadian Association for Zoos and Aquariums.
Aquariums, yeah. Yeah.
And Little Rays has done definitely tons of conservation work in like rescuing and seizing animals and rehoming them to other zoos and other places that can take them, because unfortunately the zoo can't take everything, right?
For sure, yeah.
But they do the work and the effort to try to find homes for a lot of these animals. We take in a lot of them ourselves. Little Rays prides itself on being Canada's largest exotic animal rescue, so a lot of the animals are rescues. Last time when I was working with Little Rays, they were working alongside with FAIR. So I'm looking at it right here because I can't remember it off the top of my head. But
So, you said FAIR?
yeah, FAIR, which is actually an acronym. So FAIR is Little Rays Foundation for Animal Rescue and Education. It's
Very
a
cool.
Canadian nonprofit organization that supports and funds Canada's largest animal rescue. And we've done other types of work as well. Like I think what was it? The big-headed turtle, I think we did something for in like another country. Something about the Indian star. I'm not entirely involved in those kind of conservation projects,
For
which
sure.
I'd love to be, but they were busy sending me off to different provinces.
Busy traveling, busy being a traveling zookeeper.
Yeah, but Little Rays 100%, even if I'm like not 100% aware of it and can speak about it, does a lot of conservation work. Just go look it up yourself. You can see all the things they've done in the past and currently as well.
Very cool. Yeah, I do remember them having. You mentioned FAIR. I do remember reading something about it while I was at the place, which is actually why I asked, because I did know that they had something with conservation. I just wasn't sure exactly what. You said Indian star. Are you referring to the Indian star tortoise?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Actually, one of my favorite. The patterns is one of my favorites of all the tortoises.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
They're beautiful. I have been able to work alongside with them, which is really amazing. It was one of the first animals. I remember one time I wasn't aware that it was a very rare tortoise because my boss had it at my first animal job, and I asked her, "What's your most like expensive animal here?" And she goes, "That tortoise."
That tortoise.
That tortoise.
That thing over there.
It was basically like
yeah.
it was.
That's awesome. Yeah. So with the traveling tour, sorry, I keep going back to it. It's with the traveling tour. There was a time where I remember there was a sloth going around. Were you on that tour?
I was known as the sloth girl for the longest time. I have so many pictures of me in that sloth.
You're in that sloth? Okay.
For the longest time, I was the main handler and the main caregiver for the sloth. Mostly because me and the sloth were able to cohab together. I like it really hot, and so does the sloth.
Okay.
We were able to have it like a setup at nighttime in our hotel rooms if need be. Before we had its full setup for the event done, we would have him in our hotel rooms, and we would have a temporary setup for him. And I would be able to handle the temperatures he can handle because I like it like a sauna in my hotel rooms. So
you had the sloth in your room?
Oh yeah, those are some good times. Most people really did not want the sloth in their room because they knew that if they had the sloth in their room, they would have to turn the heat up, and everybody, I guess, was extremely heat intolerant. Meanwhile,
Okay.
I'm like the opposite, where I'm like, I can't handle the cold. It has to be like 25 plus degrees at all times.
Okay. Yeah, I also can't handle the cold. That's very cool. That's very cool.
That was fun. I'd go into elevators, and people, I guess, that would go to our events were sometimes staying in the hotels that we were also staying in because they would be there for other events and stuff. And they would
Okay.
kind of go in the hotel and they'd be like, "You're the sloth girl," and I'm like, "Hey."
What's up? That's awesome. At least you can now say that you had a sloth as a roommate.
Yeah, I've had a few interesting roommates then, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have to keep the vultures in your room as well?
I've had an owl as a roommate. I've had a monitor as a roommate. I feel like I've had an alligator as a roommate, probably.
Very cool.
No clue.
Very cool. Was it hard to carry all these big animals around?
Yeah, so we would have these giant, massive kind of like cargo vans where the animals, it's where they would be held as we're driving. They're inappropriate carriers, kind of like as you would a car seat. It's for their own safety as we're on the road. Some of the bigger.
Eager.
Some of the bigger animals, yeah, they're a little bit more hard to accommodate. Like, for example, the alligator,
Yeah.
you would have to fill up a giant basin of water for it every time we got to a new city. You know, it's an
Yeah.
alligator, it needs its water.
Definitely.
Then just every animal had its own care requirement and setup and everything that needed done. You know, we traveled with alligators and lemurs and owls and vultures and sloths and reptiles of all kind. You know, a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on there. It's a zoo.
That's literally a zoo on the road. That's very cool. One more question about the zoo.
Yeah.
So zoos usually have a pretty bad reputation because everyone has that image of the giant tiger in an empty cage behind like bars. So I know this isn't the case with Little Rays, but what would you say to people who are against all zoos in general?
So for that, I would have to say that's a very black and white way of thinking. And I don't think that's right because nobody says all daycares are bad, right? Just because there's a few bad daycares out there doesn't mean that all daycares are bad or all daycare providers are bad. So that's what I have to say usually to that, kind of start putting things into a little bit perspective. And then I'll go into saying, you know, zoos have come a very long way from what they used to be. You know, in the past, there was a lot of cruel practices that are done, but now a lot of zoos, good zoos, are accredited. They're run by scientists and veterinarians and knowledgeable, educated people of all kinds. And the amount of work that goes into the care for these animals is above and beyond. Some of these animals eat better than us. it's I think a lot of
100%.
can like relate to that sometimes our animals get better fed than us.
Mine definitely do.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. So I think that people need to do their research and look into the zoos that are good and support those good zoos. And hopefully people will start to realize and keep supporting those good zoos, and those bad zoos will start to, you know, disappear after some time.
No, 100%. I mean, there's a big difference between like a Tiger King zoo and a Little Ray zoo, right? And then I think people have to, and then people also have to, I guess, realize that a lot of species would be extinct right now if it wasn't for the breeding programs that we have going on in zoos. So like the Toronto Zoo with their rhino breeding program, it's a huge step, and the Dallas Zoo with the horned lizard breeding program. Those are big things that the species probably wouldn't be around without those zoos. So I 110% agree with everything you just said.
And just for the record, those are called SSP programs. So they're called species survival plans.
Beautiful. I did not know that. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Species survival plans. I like that. Okay.
SSP programs. You can look them up and see kind of like what zoos are part of them and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so that's I guess another good indicator on finding out good zoo or bad zoo. Although it doesn't just stop at that. A lot of zoos that don't have SSP programs are still very good zoos and are taking very good care of their animals. So, No, I agree with you. It is very definitely very black and white.
Yeah. There's a gray area, or there's different perspective to try to look at.
For sure. What's the next species on your bucket list?
This is really exciting.
I know this is always a scary question to answer. I don't know if also if you don't want to reveal that over here, that's completely okay. I understand.
No, I'm actually really excited to talk about.
Okay then.
My crazy self has decided to get the rarest of the rare.
Okay.
I have been slowly paying off a captive bred Egyptian tortoise.
Beautiful. Beautiful. How big do those guys get?
They only get about 3 to 4 inches long, sometimes 5, but for the most part, they only get 3 to 4 inches long, and they're very rare in the wild and in captivity. Unfortunately, in the wild, they are going extinct or at risk, and that has to do with habitat destruction and the pet trade. And that's why I was like dead set on finding a breeder here in Canada that was captive breeding them. And for some reason, it wasn't that hard. I just like Googled like Egyptian tortoise breeder Canada.
And it popped up.
It popped up, and I found this guy who ended up knowing my boss from the zoo. They were mutual friends, and I messaged him, and I was like, "Hey, like it's." We have mutual friends. Not that that matters, but like I'm just interested in one of your little baby torts. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm slowly paying him off, and I'm hoping he will come in end of June or July.
Is that probably the best temperature to ship them in? Where's he based out of?
So right now he's currently in Montreal.
Okay, cool.
So he's more closer to you than he is to me right now.
Yeah.
But he's out in Montreal, so that's why I was saying earlier, I don't know if I'm going to make a trip out there when in the summer to go pick him up when he's finally all paid off. But I also am getting some money for my birthday coming up mid-June, so I'm using that money to get a whole see this blank space behind me?
Needs a new rack, huh?
We're making it not blank. We're putting a whole 4-foot shelving rack there.
Amazing.
So you know what that means. So there's going to be a new shelving rack, and then we're going to set up the tortoise enclosure, and then pay off the rest of the tortoise, and then pick them up.
Awesome! Congrats. That's very cool.
Thanks.
And if you do end up making a trip out there, there's a lot of cool pet stores, reptile stores in Montreal as well.
Oh, hopefully they're open.
Yeah, I think they're already open actually. They're not in lockdown like Ontario.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
French are more laid back, I
guess. Yeah. Sweet. Before I let you go, if you could give one piece of advice to anyone who wants to get started in the hobby or work with animals, what would it be?
So my best advice would be if you want to get started in the hobby, or even if you want to just start working with animals, first thing I would say to do is volunteer your time and at anywhere that has animals to just sort of get your foot in the door and start getting the experience and knowledge that you need, and keep working your way up from there. Get all the experience you can from wherever it is you need. And if you work really hard, eventually, it'll show, and people will see that, you're serious about this and that this means a lot to you. Because for me personally, reptile keeping and animals, they mean it's kind of like my lifeline in a way. If I didn't have these, I feel like I just wouldn't be here.
No, 100%. It's the passion.
But volunteer, get to know people. Don't be discouraged by people that talk down to you in a condescending manner, and don't fight with them either. Okay, just let them have their power trip. Take their advice, but just don't argue or pay them no mind. The people that actually care and want to educate you will make you want to learn more and make you feel good about learning, not make you feel stupid and bad about it. So don't be discouraged by those people, because I know those people really discouraged me in the beginning.
Awesome. Well, Red or Natasha, thank you very much for coming on. It was incredible. Can you please let everybody know where they can find you?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on a bunch. And
for sure.
Everybody, you can find me mostly on Instagram and YouTube at Redsfaunaverse. It's one word. I'm sure you'll have it somewhere where people can.
I'll put it in the show notes for sure.
But yeah, mostly those are my two social medias that I usually hop between, Instagram and YouTube. So just keep an eye on those two, and you'll keep up with me.
Awesome. And I might have to have you on again just so we can go over this whole traveling zookeeper thing because I'm still mind blown. But yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, no, that'd be so much fun to do another interview again. I'd be totally down. But thanks so much again for having this, and I'm sorry if I went over time.
No, not at all. I just didn't want to take up any more of your time. Awesome. Talk to you soon. Thank you very much.
All right, have a great evening.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye. Thank you all for tuning in to episode number 2 of Daffy's Roundtable. I'll leave all the pictures that we talked about in the podcast in the show notes, as well as all of Red's social media. Follow me as well on Daffy's Reptiles everywhere, and see you all next time. Thank you.